Ethan Skolnick back on the FanSharp Focus. We're talking a little bit of Memphis Grizzlies with our guy in Memphis, Anthony Sane. Let's get right to it. The big story early on is the Ja Morant injury. First thing, when do they expect him back? And the second thing is, how have they compensated for his absence? Gotten off to a little bit of a slow start this season.
When the news first came out about Ja Morant, a lot of the city was concerned. Of course, Ja is our franchise player, rookie of the year last year. The news came out that he'll be out looking at probably 3 to 5 weeks with a pretty much moderate ankle sprain. But just judging off of Ja, I wouldn't be surprised if it's shorter than that. I'm one of the main people who felt like it could possibly be closer to 4 than 3. But we've seen Ja on the sideline. He's taking pictures. He says he's going to be wearing high top Kobe Bryant shoes for the rest of the season. He's taking shots from half court. He's out there coaching. He's out there with a clipboard talking to the guys. He's sitting with the coaches on the bench and not with the players. And he's constantly updating his Instagram, his Twitter, like he's ready to get back out there and play. So we'll start off as 3. Ja's one of those guys going to be hard to keep on the bench, man. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's more like a 2 to 3 week situation.
All right, so how have they replaced him? I see Tyus Jones has been getting the starts. How has he played? Because Ja was so much of the offense for the first 3 games of the season. How do you replace a guy like that, and what has Tyus done so far?
Well, Tyus has stepped up as a starting point guard. He is a guy who has done very well off the bench, one of the more efficient point guards, backup point guards in the NBA. High assist-to-turnover ratio, just a guy that kind of knows how to make the best plays. Shot very well in catch-and-shoot situations last year as well. His three-point percentage increased last year. Tyus is just a steady guy that you could come in and really right the ship, so to speak. They also added Tim Frazier. They signed him as a free agent with an injury exception and trying to come in and do some things. Memphis fans may remember he's had some big games against the Grizzlies before where he's kind of had, some breakout games against us. So I'm sure a lot of people recognize him from that. And they're just kind of doing things by committee. Kyle Anderson, another guy who played point guard in college. He's had he's played heavy minutes on the ball and just kind of, just trying to right the ship as much as they can while Ja is patiently and impatiently waiting on the bench ready to get back into the game.
Let's talk about a couple of the other young players, one that's in his first season, one that's in his second season. A lot has been made. We talked about it last week about Brandon Clark and the shooting form. I mean, as I look at the numbers, he's under 20% from 3 on the season, although some of the other numbers have come back up. Is this still a concern going forward? Because it would seem that Brandon Clark is a guy who's got to pick up his play without Morant.
A lot of people within the fan base are, really concerned about Brandon's jump shot. I'm personally not. Some of the things that were more typical Brandon Clark things he was struggling with, scoring in the paint, rebounding. He just didn't have the bounce, the springs, the quick second jump. Brandon was always good as being a guy who can jump once and he's ready to jump again. And we weren't really seeing a lot of those things from Brandon this year. He had some growing things going on, and he's looking better. He's coming back around. He's getting that patented Brandon Clark floater. It's been falling much more often. And he started with us in the last game, not really sure what Coach Jenkins is going to do as far as the starting lineup this particular game. Been some rumors that he might insert Desmond Bane into the lineup, so not really sure how that would affect Brandon Clark. He might, send him back to the bench or whatever. But we're confident here in Memphis that Brandon, he's going to look back like that guy who was, that all-rookie team guy that surprised, that steal of last year's draft. The jump shot, I think that eventually will come, but I think he might be a little bit too busy trying to do things, adding to his game instead of sticking to the things that are his bread and butter.
All right, last one here for our guy in Memphis, Anthony Sane. You mentioned Desmond Bane. He's an interesting prospect. I mean, he's chiseled like an NFL player, but He's got a jump shot, and he's getting minutes here early in the season. He's shooting at a very high clip from 3, which is one of the things that they thought he could do when he was coming out. How did they project his future? I mean, he wasn't a guy who was picked in the top 20.
My good friend Peter Edmondson, co-host of my radio show, he was in a Zoom call with Coach Jenkins, and he asked Coach Jenkins, does he see a possibility of Desmond Bane starting soon, a guy who's a rookie, 30th pick in the draft? And Coach said it's definitely a possibility, definitely something that they're weighing, that they're taking a look at. And I think he's a guy who's just a knockdown shooter. I think we joke about this here in Memphis, how the Grizzlies have been beneficiaries of 2 straight seasons of guys who pretty much fell in the draft because they didn't have long arms, Brandon Clark and Desmond Bane. And I think we benefited from that twice. Desmond is a guy who doesn't have the wingspan that the guys drool over. Same thing with Brandon. And we benefited from two guys who could flat out just play basketball. A lot of people looked at Desmond Bane in the draft for things that he can't do and measurable things that he's not physically gifted with. Instead of just looking at the fact this is a guy that's just a knockdown shooter who shot over 40% all 4 years in college. A veteran college guy who played 4 years, like I said, could come in, knock down shots. He's sound enough on defense. He can handle the ball. He can make passes. And the Grizzlies are definitely seem to be benefiting from him. He's shooting 50% from three. Of course, you expect that number to go down, but sometimes these GMs just overthink things, and Desmond Bane's just a guy who can flat out knock down shots, and we're excited to have him here in Memphis.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned he doesn't have long arms, but he has strong arms. I mean, he's a guy who's
right.
He already has an NBA body, and obviously already has an NBA jump shot. Thanks to Anthony Sane, our guy in Memphis on the FanSharp Focus.